Hey folks, welcome to the channel and welcome to New York. Again. Yes, because this is my second attempt at this mock, a new, improved, more accurate and generally better version. With almost every building being redesigned and rescaled, as I really was slightly out last time. Most importantly though, Freedom Tower was my focus, and making a far better version of it. It is of course difficult because of its shape, but I think this looks pretty good. Everything is in much better scale now as well. I did my best using Google Earth to get it right. The main feature though are the World Trade Center memorial pools, and I've made them smaller and sunken them in deeper, and I decluttered the park a bit and reworked the position of this road. Another feature was to add a subway at the rear, and you can now see the whole line with two cars on the track, and I think this is a nice way to see this multi-layered New York. This was the original version, and you might not know, but a lot of these buildings were out of scale and just too big, and some were too small. The tan coloured buildings at the front left, the financial centre, are just a bit wrong, and the World Trade Center pools weren't in the right position and they were too big. I couldn't leave it like this, I just had to go back to this and make it better. When you look at the area, so here we are. The problem is this angled street. I couldn't quite get it right, as I was trying to keep it all on the base plate, which is square. So that's already one sort of error which I can't avoid, but otherwise I've been pretty faithful and accurate to the real place. You can see here the pools are much smaller in scale to the buildings, and all these buildings around here had to be redone. I added a better version of the marquee jetty, the white thing in the harbour. All these buildings are included and redesigned, but as I was saying, they're on more of a grid rather than an angle, so I'm kind of sorry about that. It's not perfect. I also originally made some errors with this area too, so I had to pull out all these buildings and make them again. And that tall, narrow building was adjusted, and I realised the New York Fire Department building next to it was a lot smaller than I thought, so again, a rebuild. These two buildings here are a bit tricky because of the triangular aspect, and I did the one on the left in more bluey colours this time. Basically, it's because it's covered in glass. In real life, it sometimes looks a bit darker, so it's a bit tricky to get it looking right. Freedom Tower does dominate, so that had to be super accurate as it's the main feature. So as I've done recently with my other city mocks, I just went street to street, building to building, and used Street View to get some notes and to get the colours right, and also used Google Earth, and I was a bit more meticulous this time. The roads are also a bit of a challenge, again because they're more like parallelograms, you know, like angled and not square, but I've taken a bit of an artistic license and I've kind of made them more of a grid. Again, I'm sorry, but it's just to fit it on a base plate. I do love how St. Nicholas, the Greek church, is just nestled in this area here. It is a bit weird. There's some parking lots around there and some wasteland, and then there's some parks, so a bit of an odd little bit. Anyways, back to the mock. I started again by stripping the whole thing down, rebuilding the base and doing the waterfront area, and I took it all out and worked on these blue and white buildings here. Then there's these more brown and red coloured cul-de-sacs with mid-rises. This bridge section which connects these World Financial Center buildings had to be redone. And then I made all these tan coloured buildings smaller and added some tiles on the sides like this. It's not much detail, it's more a suggestion of the architecture, because at this scale I would struggle to get it looking right, but it's quite close. This curved building too, I ended up making it smaller and used white instead. And then this street was redone, all these buildings way more accurate, and the taller curved white building, this took me a while to figure out, but again, looking at photos, the problem with Freedom Tower is annoyingly it's very angled, but I went for a tiered narrowing of the grey tiles to try to represent that instead. The wee tan building there is the FDNY building, which is much more in proportion now. And near to it is that very narrow tall building which I did in sand blue and dark grey. Then these two were reworked and I made the one on the back blue and got it more in scale. That white cube building was out of scale as well, so I adjusted that. Basically, I remade this all and hope all these buildings look much better. It took ages, but I think it was worth it. The Freedom Tower uses the same connections as the original architecture set did, but it's just enlarged and reinforced using a lot of snot technique to pin plates on the side with tiles on them. In fact, all these skyscrapers come apart, and that's how I transport it to LEGO shows. They all go in a separate box. But hey, you know, I am happy with it. To me, it's unmistakably New York. Everyone recognizes it, and I've since taken this to a few LEGO shows this year, and the reaction has been great. I've even had a few folks familiar with New York comment on it, praising the depiction, so that's kind of nice. For sure, it is annoying that there are the minor issues of the roads not being angular, and that does mean its accuracy is slightly out. It is a valiant attempt. I hope. I have actually done angled streets in my Tokyo mock, and I've done it before, but I found it was going to really make it difficult in New York to fit all those buildings onto the base plate. And my main problem last time was the scaling. I got many buildings way off, and it's still not quite right, but that's hard to avoid with micro scale. The reason I got it way off last time was because I was using more Street View rather than Google Earth, and I just wasn't really paying attention to the heights of the buildings properly. I also use jumper plates with tiles on top to represent cars, so of course they are way out of scale, but I really like adding them to the micro cities. I think it is a nice feature, and it kind of adds a bit of movement and, you know, interest and things going on in the streets. This blue does bother me. It is a glass clad building, so the blue sort of works. It's the only one that I personally feel needs more work, and with 3 different height exteriors as well, I did struggle. But some things you'll always be more critical of yourself about, and you just can't always get it right, but that's just the way it is. The subway was fun. It's a big hit at the LEGO shows. People love to see stuff like this. I did a double track subway in my Tokyo mock, and this is something I think I'll do in my city mocks where there's a subway line in future, and I'll always try to include it. It's cool to see, especially with the skyscrapers above. This corner is cool, Freedom Tower is cool, and I think the extra bulk and height I've added really makes it stand out more, and it doesn't completely overshadow the memorial pools which are at the heart of the mock. A closer look at the cars. I've got a police chase going on here. There's some traffic along this bit, a few limos, and my favourite is the yellow taxi cabs. When it sits on a table from above, it looks great. Well, I think so anyway. I mean, the point is that it looks like the real place, and yeah, there's a sign saying New York, but I hope when it's viewed it's immediately recognisable as the area around Ground Zero. And even though I made it, I kind of like just taking time to enjoy all the different buildings, the textures, the colours, the designs, the feel of a vibrant living city. You can almost hear the horns beeping, the sound of the subway, sirens, and all the other city sounds of hustle and bustle. I love microscale, and I really love the LEGO architecture range. I wish I'd gotten into it sooner, as I missed so many great sets. I wish I had the Chicago one and San Francisco, but I have decided not to do San Francisco as it's such a challenge, the topography with all the hills, but definitely Chicago is on the list. I have also bought the Shanghai one, which is cool because most of the buildings in that set are actually quite close to each other, so it's going to be easier to do and showcase the LEGO ones. And that's something I wanted to do with these micro mocks, as it was inspired by LEGO's architecture range to try and build the setting, the neighbourhood around the buildings that they've included in their sets. I've inadvertently made the Freedom Tower bigger and I think better, and then that's kind of dictated a bit what the scale of the other buildings has to be. In the past, I also did mocks of the area around Empire State and the Chrysler Building using the LEGO architecture sets, but I do feel now, with the success of this mock and my latest Tokyo one, that I should revisit those previous mocks and build them on a 48x48 base plate as well, and make them bigger and add more accuracy and better details. One thing to note that may surprise you is just the sheer volume of parts and the weight. I have put in so many parts to these mocks, and this one in particular, it's well over 10,000 pieces. My estimate is between 10 and 12,000, as the base took up a ton of bricks. But of course the main reason is the sheer number of 1x1 tiles, plates, and especially trans-clear plates. There's loads, and some buildings are made up almost entirely of 1x1 plates with bricks amongst them, so that's why it's like 12,000 parts is what my estimate is. So it was very parts intensive, and another thing is time. It's crazy because I'm also building Modular City on my channel, yet I find microscale takes up way more time. I can't quite explain it. Perhaps it's because I'm building a real place, so I'm taking more time to make things look realistic and going back to Google Earth to check things. I don't know. But I can tell you I have properly spent hours on just 1 or 2 buildings before, yet in that time I've also built an entire modular building from scratch, so figure that one out. I don't know. Anyways, I'm glad you could join me. I hope you liked my wee tour of New York and the area around Ground Zero. I am sensitive to the fact that this is partly a grave and a painful place, but I think the greatest honour to those that died was them building Freedom Tower. It's all about defiance, America not forgetting, but rebuilding and honouring with the memorial pools. Let me know what you think. Do you think I should have angled the roads in the end and made the base custom, or is it okay on a base plate? Thanks so much for watching until the end, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!